Okay, I wasn't planning to teach through Edpuzzle videos again this year, but here we are. So this is the document that we'd started filling out before, and I'm having trouble remembering if I had actually published this for you and you'd started filling it out. So if you don't have it filled out, then what I did was put in the vocabulary. So I want you to go through, pause this video as needed to fill in the vocabulary words. So we've got the nouns and adjectives first, and also the question words that we had talked about. I think when we did this in class, I had left pourquoi off the list, so if you want to add that to your vocab sheet, that would be great. The material that we are working on for today is the verbs. So in this review section, there are two verbs that you worked on last year. The verbs are être, the verb to be, and aller, the verb to go. So our conjugations let me take a step back. Let's talk subject pronouns first. So we have what we call first, second, and third person pronouns. And then we have the singular and the plural. Singular being that it's one person, plural being that it's a group of people. That's the simple part. The first, second, and third person is slightly more complicated. So the first person is when I am talking about myself. Particularly in the singular, there's one person involved. It's me talking about me. So that's why it's called first person. The second person is me talking to you about you. So there are two people involved in that, me and you. The third person is when it's me talking to you about somebody else. So three people involved, me, you, and the third person. So French is a very binary language. They have il for he and elle for she. Now, as the world is getting more inclusive, we in English have started using pronouns like they to refer to people that don't want to identify as either male or female. French hasn't caught up to that as well. There is a pronoun il. It's to serve the non-binary purpose. It's really not widely used, and if it's something you'd like to use in your writing, you're welcome to do so. But because the language is so binary, there's masculine and there's feminine, it's just not something that is really caught on in the French language anymore. So I don't tend to use it on verb charts and in activities, but I want you to know that it's out there in case that is a pronoun that you would like to use. So that is a quick refresher on pronouns. So for our conjugations, for être, for to be, we have je suis, S-U-I-S, to mean I am, tu es, E-S, to mean you are, il est long, est, E-S-T, he is or she is, for il est and elle. On is a little harder to translate, and you're probably familiar with that from last year, but the on can mean one, as in one must do this, or it can mean people in general, people do this, or in some contexts it can mean we as well. Even if it means we, it's still conjugated like a he or she conjugation. Nous sommes, S-O-M-M-E-S, we are. Vous êtes, E with a circumflex is the name of that accent, E-T-E-S, vous êtes for you all are. And that can be you all are. I usually say it as y'all, even though I'm not from the South, but that can be a plural, but it can also be a singular formal. So if there's someone that you would speak to and you would call them sir or ma'am, then you would address them with vous as well. So vous êtes can mean a singular you are for a person that you're showing respect to. Ils, elles sont for they are. Aller is your verb to go. Je vais, I go. Tu vas, you go. Il, elle va, he goes, she goes, or one goes, people go, we go. Nous allons, we go. Vous allez, you all go. Ils vont, they go. So pause as needed to fill in those conjugations. And then the next part for today is adjective agreement. We'll only talk about regular adjectives, so we'll just do this page of the notes. We won't go on to the next page. So there are a couple different groups of adjectives. First is a regular adjective that ends with a consonant. So the last letter of the masculine singular form. If you go back to the vocab sheet, all of these adjectives, they're given to you in the masculine singular form in French. So if the last letter of it is a is a consonant, such as français, américain, intelligent, amusant, then this is the rule that we will follow. So if we use grand for an example here, when your masculine singular ends in a consonant, to make it masculine plural, you're going to add S. So this grand becomes grand with an S. And the way this chart is written out, we've got singular, plural, masculine, feminine. To make an adjective feminine and singular, you start with that masculine singular that we had first, the grand, G-R-A-N-D, and you add an E to that. So we have grande. Pronunciation changes. When you add an E to it, now you pronounce that final consonant, whereas you didn't pronounce it when it didn't have a vowel after it. So in the masculine grand, in the feminine grande. And for the feminine plural rule, starting with that original masculine singular, we're going to add ES to give us grande. If you've got a regular adjective that ends in a vowel, timide was the only one that was on your initial vocab list on these notes. So when we think about to turn a masculine into a feminine, we added an E. The difference here is if the masculine singular already ends in an E, to turn it into feminine singular, we don't do anything at all. So timide, masculine singular, timide, feminine and singular. In the plurals, we still add S, both for the masculine plural and the feminine plural. So we have timide and timide. So the S doesn't change the pronunciation at all. So we have timide, 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 timide. All four are pronounced the same. When your regular adjective ends in an S in the masculine singular, like français, so slightly different rule than for the other consonants, because if we go back up here, our rule for masculine plural is to add an S. But if we already have an S as the last letter, like we have right here, so to have masculine plural, what we're going to do is nothing. We're not going to change it. We're not going to add another S. So français, français, same spelling, we don't change it. For the feminine singular, we will add E, and that's going to change our pronunciation here. So français becomes française, and for the feminine plural, we add ES to that original masculine singular to give us française with an ES. So for pronunciation, we have français, français, française, française. And now that's all you've got for notes. So you're going to go over to your packet, and there are 3 activities that you're going to do. Maroon 1, you're going to do activities 1 through 3 for Monday. Gold 4, you're going to do those same 3 activities for Tuesday. So you're doing activity 1. This is vocabulary, and this is where you're going to use the nouns and the adjectives part of your vocab list. So you have to understand the sentence, find the word that's missing, the word that will make sense to complete the sentence. Activity 2 is also vocabulary, but it says compléter avec un mot interrogatif, complete with a question word. So you use the question word part of your vocab sheet. And then activity 3, we've got l'accord de l'adjectif, adjective agreement. Les adjectifs réguliers, regular adjectives. So we have some that end in a consonant. We have some that end in a vowel. We've got one ending in an S as your final consonant. So you'll complete those 3 activities, submit that, and you'll be all set.